Hi there, and welcome back to another episode of Editor's Notes with me, Cy Williams. Now tell me, do you have a lot of friends, like a huge circle? Or maybe you just have a select few? Or maybe, just maybe, you're a stoic loner with no friends at all? Or maybe you have thousands on each of your social media platforms, and then you text hundreds more, or DM to hundreds more, and you feel that you have so many that it's practically impossible to keep track. Well, have you ever heard of Dunbar's number? Maintaining relationships is a fundamental aspect of human life, contributing significantly to emotional well-being, social support, and overall happiness, or so I hear. There is a limit, however, to the number of meaningful relationships that people can effectively manage, and this is due to cognitive and time constraints. This limit is often referred to as Dunbar's number, and it was proposed by anthropologist Robin Dunbar. Now, Dunbar's number is a concept that was proposed by Professor Dunbar, who is both an anthropologist and a professor of evolutionary psychology. It suggests that there might be a cognitive limit to the number of meaningful relationships that people can maintain. Now, what is that number? Let's explain. Dunbar's number, in essence, is around 150, and this represents the approximate number of meaningful relationships that an individual can effectively manage. So 150 on average. These relationships are characterized by history, reciprocity, and a sense of obligation. They are the people with whom you have significant connections to and would feel comfortable asking for a favor or support in times of need. Some of the origins of Dunbar's number, because it's a very fascinating thing. The number stems from research done on the relationship between brain size and social group size in primates. Now, by studying certain primates, I think old world monkeys and apes, Dunbar was able to identify a correlation between neocortex size, which is the part of the brain that's responsible for social interactions, and time spent on social grooming activities and group size. This led to the prediction or speculation that humans with their neocortex size should be able to maintain stable relationships with approximately 150 people or individuals, or that sort of thing. Now, here's some examples of Dunbar's number that have been observed in various contexts throughout history and in modern times as well. For instance, it aligned 150 aligns with the size of Neolithic villages, academic communities, professional armies, workplace friendships, and even the maximum allowable number of buddies on certain platforms like AOL Instant Messenger, for those of you who remember that. Now, understanding Dunbar's number can be valuable for a whole bunch of reasons. For designing social structures and software platforms, for communities, for workplaces, and other social settings. It highlights the natural cognitive restraints on maintaining peaceful relationships and meaningful relationships, and can inform strategies for building effective social networks. So, Dunbar's number of 150 represents the cognitive limit on meaningful relationships that we can sustain. But why should there be a limit to the number of meaningful relationships that people can have? It's a good question, right? Okay, I've heard it said that you can never have too many friends. This is true, but according to Dunbar, 150. We have cognitive limitations. The human brain has a finite capacity for processing social information. Maintaining meaningful relationships requires cognitive resources, such as memory, empathy, time management, communication skills, and beyond a certain point, individuals may struggle to keep track of the nuances and complexities of all the different types of relationships they have in their life, which can be a difficult thing, as we all know. And we also have time constraints. None of us live forever, and we all have to take the time to live in this world here, with all of its challenges. And let's be honest, many of life's duties and responsibilities require time, and that is a precious commodity that we all wish we had more of, and more of, and more of. Of course, building and nurturing meaningful relationships requires time and effort on everyone's part. Individuals with an extensive network of relationships may find it extremely challenging to allocate sufficient time to each connection, leading to superficial interactions across the board or neglecting some relationships altogether. And then there's the emotional investment. Meaningful relationships entail emotional investment, trust, reciprocity. Managing a large number of deep connections can be emotionally draining, and it may dilute the quality of the interactions as well if you are spread too thin across multiple relationships. I would be remiss if I didn't touch, even for a second, on quality versus quantity. Research suggests that the quality of relationships you have is way more important for well-being than the quantity. Meaningful connections provide emotional support, companionship, a sense of belonging, which are all crucial for mental health and resilience. So, what are the consequences for people who hate people? You know, the ones who don't have anybody in their life, or have significantly less people, less meaningful relationships than other people. Well, they have to deal with social isolation, and individuals with fewer meaningful relationships may experience feelings of loneliness, isolation, and a lack of social support. And this can impact mental health greatly in negative ways and lead to increased stress levels. You can't have any friends. They also have to deal with limited emotional support, and in times of need and crisis, you need that. Individuals with fewer meaningful relationships may lack the necessary emotional support system to cope effectively with challenges or setbacks of life. And then there is the overall reduced well-being. Research indicates that individuals with limited social connections are at higher risk of depression, anxiety disorders, and other types of mental health issues, compared to those with strong social ties and a well-rounded social group. And people who have way more than Dunbar's number, more than 150, what about those people? Some examples of consequences for individuals with more relationships than they need. And there's a few of these. Superficial interactions. Having an excessive number of relationships can absolutely result in superficial or transactional interactions rather than any sort of deep emotional connection. This can lead to feelings of emptiness or simply dissatisfaction despite having many acquaintances. The sheer number of people in your life can overwhelm. Managing numerous relationships simultaneously can be overwhelming and exhausting, potentially causing stress, burnout, or feelings of being spread just way too thin across too many various commitments. Haven't we all been there? Then there's the difficulty prioritizing. When faced with a large network of relationships, how do you prioritize your time and their time and attention effectively? Not doing this properly can lead to neglecting important connections or feeling guilty about not being able to maintain all the relationships adequately. So, while human beings thrive on social connections and meaningful relationships are essential for well-being, there is a practical limit to the number of such connections that people can have. and have effectively. And this, as I mentioned, is due to cognitive limitations, time constraints, and the need for emotional investment. I would like to say thank you to Professor Robin Dunbar and thank her 1993 paper, Coevolution of Neocortical Size, Group Size, and Language in Humans. This seminal paper by Professor Dunbar outlined the hypothesis behind Dunbar's number in an easy-to-understand way, provided detailed insights into both the relationship between brain size and social group size. So, pretty fascinating. I hope you learned something today. That's it for me. I'm really happy I learned about Dunbar's number, and I hope that your size is around 150 as well. If it's not, if you're one of those people who've got 10, or you're one of those people who've got 400 or 420, let us know in the comments below on how you're dealing with with your social size. Anyways, that's it for me right now. Talk to you soon.